I once spent a week's salary on 2 products, and honestly, I've got 0 regrets. I got this blush and this. Can you guess what they are? I got them from Violet Grey on Melrose Place. I'd booked a makeup lesson and I sat there for hours. It was like 2 hours. And I was convinced I was going to come out looking like a clown, but I actually walked out looking like $1 million. Get ready with me while I use some hero products and tell you how I found some of Hollywood's amazing beauty gurus before the $1 million fame, before the $1 million companies, and before ABH was ABH. The 2016 beauty explosion was just beginning, but the seeds were sown much earlier. I'm now my own makeup artist because I learned from some of the best, but they were actual legends before they became legends. I've done my base, I have used some contour and put my mascara on. I've also done my eyebrows because this is about a very special product that I've only just bought, which is this. It came out about 6 months ago and I wanted to add to my hero product collection. So I bought this Nars Tempting palette. I had to find out whether it's tempting enough. When I moved to Hollywood, it was before tweakments got as popular as they are now, and Kim Kardashian and actually Kris Kardashian had their original factory settings. By the way, I'm going to put the description of all the products that I'm using in the description box below, just so that you know. I had for years pored over magazines like Allure and Elle and Vogue, and I was always quite interested in the credits, like who was the hairdresser, who was the makeup artist. Got to LA, I thought, well, some of them lived in New York, but some of these people were in LA, so I thought, I'm going to try and find these people and see if they can make me look that glamorous. After my Violet Grey experience, I decided to branch out a bit further. First of all, I'll tell you what I did get from Violet Grey that cost me a week's salary. I got this La Prairie blush in Rose Glow, and look how loved that is. Still smells fine. I am going to use a little bit for you now. It's actually infused with all sorts of skincare. Thought, well, if it's going to do me good, it's worth paying all that money for. I still use it to this day. The other thing that I got was the Guerlain Meteorites in 03. Still smells of violets, and I tend to just pop a bit on my cheeks. I tend to stay away from my T-zone because I don't think it needs to kind of go there, but it gives you this sort of lovely glow and smooths everything out. So that was a good purchase, and it's lasted me a very, very long time. And I'm very glad that I've still got it. I'm going to use some of my hero products when I want my makeup to va-va-voom, but I am going to try this for the first time. I'm going to try this eyeshadow palette, the Tempting eyeshadow palette by Nars, which came out about 6 months ago. Didn't really get that many reviews. There were some, but they were quite mixed, so I'm not sure if I've sort of bitten off more than I can chew. I'm going to use this row here, starting with that one. Then I'm going to go purple, and then I'm going to go dark brown, I think. Anyway, let's just see. Anyway, after my... Oh dear, look at that. That's I might not go very far with that. After my Violet Grey experience, I decided I was going to do eyebrows. And I had read about a lady called Anastasia Saw, and I found out that she had a salon on North Bedford Drive, which is just off Rodeo Drive. And I went in there very proud of myself for having found it. And she was still working there. She hadn't launched any makeup products or anything like that. She was still working there. She did my eyebrows, and it was absolutely amazing. I came out with my eyebrows looking thicker and fuller than they ever had. She hadn't done dip brow, but I came away with a little pot which I could sort of do myself in between times, and actually that ended up being dip brow. And I bought the brush, tiny little angled brush to go with it. It was amazing, and they taught me how to use it, and she was just so kind and so generous that actually I'd been there that many times that I got to know her quite well. And I got her tickets to American Idol, the final of American Idol, which back then was a bit like getting an invite to the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever. And she was so happy that she'd got them, and I was very happy that I'd helped her to get them. It was actually the year that Simon Cowell told one of the hopefuls, Jennifer Hudson, that she had no talent and she'd go nowhere. That didn't quite work out as planned. Talk about foot in mouth. But yeah, somebody called, is it Fantasia Barrino, something like that? She won instead. And, well, Jennifer's gone on to win. I know she definitely won an Emmy. I don't know whether she won an Oscar. But obviously she did have talent. And she went all the way to the top. Thank you, Simon Cowell. Okay, so that is my Nars. What do we think? I already put mascara on and just a tiny bit of tight lining. You remember the 2016 makeup was all kind of like dark eyeshadow, no glow, matte foundation and concealer lips. Kind of completely the opposite to what we've got today. Anyway, hair next. So basically, I also had read about a salon called the Andy Lecomte salon, and I think he was quite famous because he'd done Madonna's hair. So I booked myself in, and by chance, I got a stylist called Jen Atkin. Now, I used to go to her as often as I could to get my blow dries done in the week. She was absolutely brilliant. And we used to talk about, she was a fashion freak and probably still is. Well, she still is. And I remember I gave her a Topshop leather jacket that I had bought and didn't like anymore, and I just gave it to her because she was talking about not being able to get Topshop in Los Angeles, which was very upsetting to her, so I gave her that. And she actually invited me to a Madonna after party. When she wasn't in the salon, she would work on the hair for the dancers on Madonna's, I think it was the MDNA tour, and they were having a end of tour party in Vegas, which was, just up the road. And I didn't go. Can you believe I didn't go? I'm really sad that I didn't go. Can't remember why I didn't go. I think I was a bit intimidated, to be honest. So Jen has now, obviously, if you don't know, I'm sure you do know, but she now, some years later, she started the Way hair care line and has gone from strength to strength. And she got married to a lovely man called Mike, has got 2 children now. When I couldn't see Jen Atkin, I also had in my sights a salon that was run by a man called Chris McMillan. I don't know if he was famous for it there. Oh yes, he was famous for it then, actually. He does Jennifer Aniston's hair, and I think he might have been responsible for that Jennifer Aniston hairdo that we all kind of like copied and just wanted to be Jennifer Aniston. Goodness knows when. I don't think I ever got my hair done by Chris McMillan, but I did regularly go and see a lovely lady called Gabrielle, who was like a genius at highlights. I wasn't going to do highlights, but as I was there, I thought, oh, well, why not? And I used to kind of like sit there, and they had this little garden outside where I'd sip green tea while I was waiting for my highlights to develop like Polaroids. She was my go-to, Gabby, and Gabby is actually still at Christmas Macmillan, I think. And now I think Chris does everybody's hair. I think he might do a lot for J-Lo, actually. Call me the David Attenborough of the beauty world. I also decided to try and track down a lady that I'd read about called Tracy Cunningham. Now, she was a sort of colour expert, and she worked at a salon back on Melrose Place, not very far from Violet Beret, actually. And she worked for a lady called Sally Hirschenberger. Now, Sally Hirschenberger invented Meg Ryan's pixie shag thing that everybody wanted in the 90s, before we decided we just wanted to be Jennifer Aniston. She was at a salon called Sally Hirschson at John Frieda, and Tracy worked there. Just a little aside about Sally Hirschenberger, she sort of invented the $600 haircut because she wanted to not have to hang out on sets and stuff and just wanted to be in the salon. So she thought, well, how much do I need to earn to be able to stay in the salon and not go on set? And she worked out that it was $600, and that's what she charged, and people paid it. I managed to get in with Tracy, and I loved the way that she worked, actually. Even though I went in quite regularly, she would always look at me as if it was for the first time, sort of evaluating, my tone and my skin, and she's absolutely brilliant at what she does. I think now she's actually an ambassador for Redken, I think, or Schwarzkopf or somebody anyway. Tracy's very famous now for doing Jessica Alba, J-Lo, Halle Berry. I think she's done. I was really lucky to have been able to catch her when she was affordable, basically. I'm putting lip liner on my eyes because it's just a bit more soft, what I'm trying to do for my eyes. I don't know what I think about this Nars. I might have to try it again with maybe different colour combinations, but it's not bad. Now I'm going to actually use this on my lips. Then I started looking for facials, and I don't know how I found it, but I found a little salon just in a shopping mall off Sunset Strip, and it was called Ole Henriksen. Now I walked in there, and I don't know, I think maybe somebody had recommended it to me, but nobody had ever heard of this person or this brand. And I walked in and it just smelled of sort of rich people and fruit, basically. So I used to go there quite a lot, and it was always one of those experiences where you came out actually feeling like $1 million, because they gave you a facial, but they gave you a hand massage, and they gave you a foot massage, and they gave you a back rub and everything else, and it was just absolutely amazing. But that was well before it smelled like global success and Sephora shelves. So you have to remember, this was Hollywood before we'd even heard of James Charles, I think. And although beauty was kicking off on YouTube, it wasn't like the big thing that it was in later years. And actually it was also well before Harvey Weinstein and Diddy and all the other stuff that we've been reading about in 2025, with all these famous people getting exposed for doing terrible things. So there was a sort of air of naivety and innocence and hope and joy to the Hollywood that I knew in those days. Opposite Ole Henriksen there was a nail salon that I used to go to. And I've got one little story about my trip to the nail salon. I sat in the chair next to Demi Moore, who was absolutely beautiful. I mean, she looked like she had no makeup on, hair just down, jeans, t-shirt, and she looked like she was lit by angels. I've never seen anything so beautiful before or since, actually. In the flesh, she was actually more beautiful than on screen. And I tried not to stare, but I'd have a little look, didn't I? I went to a lot of makeup artists, and it's just too many to mention, really, because because of my job, because I work in television, I went to a lot of ceremonies. Like I went to the Oscars, I went to the Emmys, I went to the Governor's Ball. There were always kind of like agency parties, and it was kind of just done that you kind of went in full glam. And so I went to so many makeup artists that I was picking up quite a few tips, and I'd really got into Kim Kardashian's contouring method, and I did that quite a lot. But I picked up enough tips that I thought, you know what, if I can do this myself, because I've had training at the best levels by the best people, I can be my own makeup artist. That's what I think we should all do, is be our own makeup artist. It's about, using the right products, using your face, really. I've just worked to my face and what my face can stand and what my face needs, and you can do that too. I want to try and use my experience to pass on what I know, Hollywood makeup bootcamp. But you don't need to spend a week's salary on some blush and some meteorites. You can actually use, these days, drugstore is everything. And quite often I like using a drugstore product instead of a high-end product. This is my tester for my La Prairie lipstick. No, is it La Prairie? No, it's not actually. It's Hermes. Sorry, it's the Hermes lipstick that I tried the other day, and I think that is me done. So that's my Hollywood stories, seeking out beauty gurus. Please do like and subscribe. I do quite a lot of these videos, and there'll be another Hollywood stories coming up quite soon. I could name drop, but I won't. I will in my stories, but there's a few movie stars, and yeah, let's just leave it at that, shall we, for now? I'll see you soon.